Hello and welcome to the Talk Football Podcast. This is season 4. It is episode 8, and we are welcoming back Paul to the show. And we're going to catch up with Paul and talk a bit of Spurs because they are flying high. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, or good evening for good evening for me, isn't it? Good morning
It's a,
for you. I'm
it's
losing where I am
I,
time-wise.
yeah,
Worse.
we could be more common wise.
Oh dear, never mind.
Like I said, mate, you're flying high. Embarrassingly so. I predicted that Ange Postecoglou would be the first Premier League manager to be sacked. How wrong was I? Because he's just made history and won the manager of the month for a second month in a row.
Yeah, which makes you think anyone normally who wins the manager of the month, you normally lose the next game, don't you? So I wonder if we'll win a game at all during October.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, looking at your fixtures, obviously, next up for you is Fulham. Yeah, I mean, Fulham's a weird one because we played them, and I thought, we bearing in mind how poor we've been, and we've done them a bit, but Fulham are a good side, and I don't think that's going to be an easy game for you.
Well, our fixtures have been funny so far. So if you think we've played Arsenal, United, and Liverpool, but we've also played Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley. So we played 3 of the big teams, and then the 3 teams that have come up. So we sort of know we can beat the teams that come up, which you should expect. Their quality wise are a bit adrift, even though 1-0 against Luton, 2-1 against Sheffield United, scraped it a little bit. Equally, we know that we can match the big teams on the big occasion, which I think we knew beforehand, but still, it's good we got a draw at Arsenal, obviously, we beat United, and then we beat Liverpool somewhat massively fortuitously, let's be perfectly honest. But we don't really know where we stand with them teams in the middle, the ones that don't think they're going to go down and probably aren't going to challenge for Europe. So our next run of fixtures, I think it's Fulham and then it's Palace, adding to the London derby mix, as well as alongside the fact that they're not big 6 and they're not bottom 3.
Yeah, 2 evening kickoffs with them as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But obviously we have started amazingly. There will be a blip at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're going to ask me if we're going to win the league, or if I think we can win the league.
I think we'll leave that one because obviously, like you mentioned, we've got the Chelsea game coming not that far in the future. I'll come back and ask you that after Christmas, because generally, it's what they say. If you're bottom at Christmas, generally you go down. If you're top at Christmas, you normally, unless of course you're Arsenal and you've got a whole shelf full of bottles. Generally that you've got a fair chance of winning the league. So we'll see where you are. I think either just before or just after Christmas.
And even though you didn't ask me, I'm going to answer the question anyway.
Well, go on then.
No, we won't. For 2 key reasons. First,
is it going to be a Spursy season?
No, we ain't got the squad. So if you lose a centre half, then we've got no one to come in. You can't play a high line. I love Dyer. I'm not an anti-Dyer person by any means, but he doesn't fit the way we play at the moment. So if he has to come in because either Romero or we lose the pace of Van de Ven, then we're in trouble. I think we're pretty decent in midfield. Bissouma's banned for the next game, but I think Højbjerg, Skip, Sarr, and then Bentancur to come back are pretty decent. But if we lose Maddison, then we got no creativity whatsoever. And as much as at the moment we are scoring goals all over the shop, any team who wants to win the league needs a striker who's going to get a minimum of 20. And let's be honest, we haven't got that. We haven't got a guy at the moment that we can hang our hat on who's going to definitely get us 20 goals a season. So if we can sort them 3 things out, we might be all right, but we won't be. So
yeah, I mean, we started well. I mean, yeah, your November is our game aside. Your other 2 fixtures in November, they're no no gimmies either. You're away at Wolves, lunchtime kickoff, and then you've got following that you've got Villa, which yet again,
Tough team. They're doing well.
tough teams, albeit but Villa's away record is not great at all. So I would imagine that won't, at the Tottenham Stadium, I don't think that'd be so much of a problem. Wolves are a funny one because we see against obviously Man City what they did to them, and they press high from the top, which I wouldn't, in ordinary terms, I wouldn't think that would be an issue for your defence, given if everyone's obviously playing and available.
Well, and that would probably be my third reason as to why we won't win, nor will we challenge for the league, is because at some point one team will find us out. They'll work out how to play against us, and then all the other teams will be able to copy that. And then I think at the moment we're a bit like, it's the first time the manager's been in the Premier League. No one quite knows what his team do or does. We're playing the whole inverted fullback concept, which of course Pep does, but sort of no one else really does it. And I think we do it a little bit differently. We do one inverted, one wide. So we don't do it quite exactly the same way as what he does it. And at the moment, I think teams are just like, they don't know where the players are, what's going on. But watch a few videos after a few games, and
it's a difficult system to pick up because the way you do it, obviously, it tends to be your left back that tends to stay wide, and it's the right back that then comes in and joins and makes a four in the midfield, which obviously that allows Maddison to then just literally go and do whatever he wants because they have that bit of security.
They kind of swap. It's funny. So you got the two centre halves. They'll be the ones that will stay back, and then either one of the two fullbacks will kind of join Basuma on the base. So we sort of go 2-2, and then you'll have your other fullback will then kind of almost make the three with Maddison and Sarr, and then you've got your three guys up front. So it's sort of like a 2-2-3-3. It's a really strange system, which I don't think at the moment teams can't quite work out.
Because if you play a flat three midfield, you can easily get overrun because you've got them extra bodies that are joining in. So any kind of press that you try and push through just doesn't work because there's always an outlet ball. And then obviously Basuma, aside the silly yellow cards and getting sent off, which will be a big miss because I actually mentioned this in a few comments to your brother on a couple of messages we exchanged. Basuma's like his drive from midfield is phenomenal.
He's press resistant, isn't he? That's the thing. Like he sees a space, he can bomb into it. And then then he kind of goes up, so then
it just opens everything out.
2-1-4. It gets we're kind of all over the place.
But it works, and clearly,
it does.
I don't think this is. I didn't get to watch a lot. Well, pretty much hardly any Celtic at all, other than like the European games. So I don't know whether this is something that he had there and like has now brought on, to Spurs with a much higher quality level of player. So it's much more effective. So fair play. It's refreshing. It's refreshing because albeit I don't particularly want Spurs to like win the league, but we have to have teams that are going to challenge City. You can't just have an Arsenal or a Liverpool 1 in 3 seasons giving City a run for their money. So we need other teams to step up and start challenging that. Otherwise, the league becomes very predictable and boring.
Yeah, I still think it will be quite predictable and boring as far as who wins it. It will be more that now the Champions League places will be interesting because I think Spurs are back, Liverpool are back.
Yeah,
you've got some space to make up, but unfortunately, I have faith in Poch that he will have it sorted certainly for Christmas.
I think with no European football, players that are not away on international camps and all that, he gets to work with them at Cobham. He gets to work with the young players at Cobham, which obviously builds the base layer of foundation for your squad. And obviously we, just touching on us a little bit, we have obviously picked up a few results recently. So it does appear that corner is starting to turn. So hopefully, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm hopeful that Nkunku could possibly play some sort of part against you. And for us, obviously, that's massive. Not good news for Spurs fans because he's a player of, you know, real high quality. So yeah, there is that. I don't think we get anywhere near top four, but what we could do is
I wouldn't be so
potentially,
sure.
I don't know. There's just so many good teams at the moment, and we've got such a young squad, and we're so far behind that maybe next year, with an additional forward or whatever, we could have a push. But for me, obviously, I think the ones that would more threaten the teams that are there now, because I start seeing a bit of a turn in their form, albeit they drew their last game, Newcastle, is that yet again, I do think they'll get stronger as the season progresses, as they start getting used to playing Champions League football midweek.
And when they're out of the Champions League as well, that's when they'll get stronger.
Well, I actually see them going fairly deep. I mean, the result, I don't know if you got to see it, but the game against PSG was a real like statement performance for Europe. I mean, Eddie threw everything at that game. But obviously that possibly has a detriment to them then maybe pushing for a top four, but because the squad don't, there's a lot of teams that are in around that wanting to progress to that sort of top four level, which is kind of where we are now. You scratch beneath the surface and the quality levels ain't quite there to get you through it all. But and I suppose that would be the worry for you because, but then
I mean, I thought your start is sort of like bang on the start. I thought we'd we'd lose a couple of games, and then slowly you'd start to see it come together. But there'll be a blip at some point. Who knows?
I mean, you're looking at your December fixtures. I mean, potentially that's where your blip could happen because you obviously. Man City, 2nd of December, West Ham at home. Yeah, again, it's one of them like 50-50 games. It depends on which David Moyes teams turns up. And then Newcastle, I mean, he got 3 home fixtures in December. I mean, that's quite good. Yeah, then you got Newcastle, Forest away, which yet again, on their day, if Forest put it together, it could be a tough game. And then you got to finish out the month just before Christmas. You got Everton, which you would think that should be a home banker.
Man City will be the one I reckon that because we've got a really good record against them, both home and away. A little, pretty good compared to most teams. Whereas I reckon they'll tank us this season because we'll attack them and we'll go for them, which we haven't done, and we play a very similar system, but they've got better players and have been playing it longer.
Attacking wise, though, they've been struggling recently, so I don't know. You know, I've got a feeling that you're going to go to the Etihad, and I've got a feeling you'll beat them.
Yeah, I don't think we will, unfortunately. I think we could lose by 2 or 3, maybe more. But by that stage, you know, I would have picked up a few other points probably that we'd have lost out on in previous seasons. So we'll see.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's looking rosy. It's almost all looking too rosy. I need something to moan about. All right, being a Spurs fan and not having something to moan about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think I'm looking at the more and more I look at your fixtures and the more and more points I'm seeing you picking up, other than maybe 1 or 2. And like looking, if obviously you finish out December, end of the year with Brighton and Bournemouth and Brighton away at the Amex. That could be an iffy one. Bournemouth, you're going to win, no doubt about that. So I'm like looking at January and I'm thinking you could be potentially a few points clear.
No, not a few points.
I do.
Top 5.
I think City will continue to keep dropping points. The danger with City is that it's not necessarily around that time of year that they come good. It's that last, say, 2 months of the season, like we saw, you know, when they chased Arsenal down last year. That would be the worry. So it's points in the bank, you know, you need to get. But yeah,
be interesting to see what the club does if we are top 4, top 5 within striking distance. Let's say within 6 points of the top. So 2 wins.
Yeah.
What they're prepared to do in January, because as I say, like we need another centre half.
Yeah.
We need a striker. We need cover from Maddison. I mean, in all honesty, with any top player would improve the team or improve the squad. We've got a good squad of about 15 or 16 players, but once you start
Once
to
you
lose a couple
scratch,
of players, you're
yeah,
in trouble. You're in
yeah.
trouble.
And that's
So,
not, like you say, it's no detriment to players like Dyer and all that, but
yeah.
in real world terms, if you want to be a club that's going to challenge for trophies, you've got to get to that stage that
Yeah.
you have two quality players in each position. That's
We're not even
only
there.
11 can work, but
We've got one and maybe a few players. Even if we get to the point where we've got a good first 11, which we've got now, but then you've got 3 or 4 versatile players that can come in and fill in positions. Proper like the old-fashioned squad player, like United used to have, like John O'Shea, who would come in and do a job in midfield, centre half, right or left back when he was needed.
A 6 out of 10 who can occasionally throw an 8 in there.
Yeah. someone like that, a couple of players like that who the quality of the team doesn't go down too much, but they're versatile. They can play all over the shop. They fill in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. But it's certainly a lot better than what I thought it was going to be.
It's an interesting one, like in terms of, I know you're saying about the striker and all that. Obviously, they're difficult to come by anyway. And anyone that you sign at any kind of significant amount of money is going to want to be a starting player. So that means, probably Richarlison drops to the bench, arguably. Although his form is starting to pick up a bit, but
he's playing on the left, isn't he? So Son's through the middle. So Son's more obviously through is more than good enough, but you can't rely on the one man.
No.
Richarlison is now playing on the left. I wonder if Brendan Johnson?
Brendan Johnson. Yeah.
He looked good. He looked good against Arsenal until he pulled up.
How long is he out for injured? I don't know.
He should be back. He didn't do the international game, so he should be back.
Yeah, I mean he's a good player, more of a winger than I would say an out and out forward. But
yeah, well, I was I was on YouTube earlier and I was flicking through and something like all of his assists and goals came for Forest came up. So I just spent 10 minutes watching him.
And he's a very good player.
He's perfect for us because he's pace on the and he crosses low, which is what what we do, and he could probably play through the middle if needs be. So
he can do it. I mean, I've seen him do it a few times for Forest, like where he's gone through the middle. Again, I think obviously that would depend on the opposition because he's certainly a player that can obviously run in behind because he's a phenomenal pace. So that's obviously a different option. Whereas obviously the forwards, you would think. I mean, Sonny does that. He does do the running in behind and that as well, but it's probably not maybe as natural to him for doing that as someone like Johnson. So I think again, I mean, and of course, poor old Kulusevski. He seems to play every minute of every game.
He does. He's
probably could do with a bit of a rest.
He works hard. And he's got quality, but he's coming a little bit predictable. Like he's always cutting in. I don't know if for the Liverpool goal, I don't know if you probably didn't see it, but he had the ball on wide and then he cut in and he knocked the ball back. And there was a big groan in the ground because it was come on, go wide. And then Romero got the ball, knocked it out to Porro, whipped it in, and then of course we get the goal from it. So I mean, he's class. He's a really good player.
He's a good player. I mean, he's not a traditional winger in the sense that he's not like absolutely rapid. He's very, very good on the ball.
It's in the head.
It's in the head. Right foot appears to be more for standing on than anything else. Hence why he cuts in all the time. But yeah, I mean, he's just a very, very good, solid player. But obviously, touching back on Johnson, he gives that level of unpredictability as well because you don't know where he's going to come short. He's going to spin in behind you, so he's a bit of and obviously being right-footed, bit of a nightmare for defenders. So definitely could play on that right side, like you say, go through the middle. If I was to touch on and ask you any idea of like a particular striker that you would that you've seen that might fit the bill.
No, because there was a lot of talk when Ange joined about how the main striker almost has to sacrifice himself for the team. So there was a lot of talk and gossip and rumor about kind of how would Kane fit?
Yeah.
Because Kane is obviously the star, and in effect that striker, a bit, I mean, Sonny does, he runs himself to the ground and he takes Son off, he puts him in cotton wool basically. He's got a bit of an injury, but he runs himself out and then he has to bring someone else on. So I'm not sure. I mean, I really like the kid at Brighton. But,
Ferguson.
Ferguson,
Yeah,
but
a lot of money.
He would necessarily suit. Yeah, he would be, but I don't think he'd necessarily suit the way Ange wants to play. Almost Johnson is almost like a good kind of.
Yeah, I suppose getting Johnson back would be almost like having a new signing anyway. We haven't seen much of Vélez. I know he came on very briefly as a sub in the last game.
Well, I mean, he's a perfect example of where the squad is weaker than what we want it to be. So when he was signed, Postecoglou said, you won't see him at all in the first half of the year. He needs to acclimatise, he needs to train, he needs to get used to being with us. Yeah. And then, of course, we get a couple of injuries and we've got no choice but to put him on the bench. We're in games and we got no choice but to bring him on. So, he was.
Look, I looked at a few clips of him on YouTube because it's what we do. That's how we do it. That's how we do our scouting. And there's touches of the Alvarez about him. City's Alvarez, he's got a little bit of that about him. And I think that could be
he's quite physical.
Yeah,
he don't mind a challenge, but he seems gets caught offside a bit. I think he's a bit slow, as in when lines push up, because he's probably not used to that, having played in for the games in Argentina or whatever he's done. So,
well, that's the one thing with the Premier League. It's like it doesn't matter whether you're playing a team that's in 18th, 17th, whatever. Every defence. Even Luton are starting, to get used to the Premier League a little bit. So it's not a situation. I think this is where a lot of forwards, when they come from leagues abroad, that it is in their leagues that they come from. You've only got maybe 2 or 3 top teams, and everyone else is like beatable. But when you come to the Premier League, it's a different ball game. You can get kicked from pillar to post by these big tough defenders, and everyone's got pace, and everything's played at 100 mile an hour. So it must be a daunting prospect for players coming in from abroad.
He's had a schedule, basically, having had them few minutes on the pitch, and because of the injuries.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll be on the bench and he'll get a few more minutes and a bit more time.
Well, yeah, and of course FA Cup kicks in after the new year as well, so that's extra fixtures and that are going to be going to be played. I didn't see who you have. You are still in the Carabao Cup, aren't you? Or did you get knocked out?
No, we got knocked out by Fulham.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. So, in many ways, that's probably a bit of a benefit. Long term. Albeit, a trophy's a trophy.
My view, I was furious when we got knocked out. So my view would be, it's only worth being knocked out of that if we win the league, which we're not going to do. But because otherwise, we need a trophy.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ange's position was, one trophy for the sake of a trophy isn't worth it. It needs to be sustainable. But I'm in the Jose Mourinho position of, you win that League Cup, you get players who haven't won before, and they get a taste of winning.
Yeah, build that winning mentality.
Particularly the timing of it. You get it in your pocket in February, and if you're still in the FA Cup, and if you're 4th or 5th in the league, then you use it as a springboard to kick on. So that was a disappointment. But he played the reserve team. They went out on penalties, so it wasn't like they got smashed. But I would have liked to have seen him play the first team, try to get a couple of goals up within the first half or the first hour, and then you rest them, as opposed to bring them off the bench to try and save the game, basically.
Well, I've just read here. I'll get your reaction on this one as well. That Jose Mourinho wants to take Eric Dyer to Roma.
I think that would be a good move for Dyer. I think Dyer in Italy is perfect.
Perfect. Slower game, Yeah. But obviously, not good for you.
Mourinho doesn't play with a high line, so and Dyer, having lived in Portugal, speaks Portuguese. He's got that kind of
connection.
He's quite a mature man as well. I think
a bit of a leader.
I think he'd love it. I think it'd be a perfect move for him. And of course, Mourinho's probably thinking he's free
It's a
because
question
he's
for you because this has just jumped into my brain because obviously we're touching on forwards and all that. There's always these persistent rumours with Roma that Tammy wants to come back to the Premier League, Tammy Abraham. And Eric Dyer, Tammy Abraham swap with a bit of cash, albeit ex-Chelsea, but I think he's a good player. I would have taken him back at Chelsea with this season, particularly as well.
I don't know enough about him to comment, to be honest. He's played a bit, and he's played a bit for England.
Yeah, I mean, he had that the breakthrough season at Chelsea when Frank was in charge, when we had the transfer ban. I think he notched up something like 19. I think 19 Premier League goals. I think about 25 goals across the season with cup competitions, etc. The following season, obviously, didn't really start. Well, it was mainly because Chelsea didn't really start, and obviously Frank then got sacked, and then he ends up going out to Roma. But in Italy, he's done really well, and he's got that bit of physical presence as well, but can do the link up play, can do the like you were saying about the being unselfish work for the team. I would, again, I mean, I'd love him back at Chelsea, but I think he would be a good fit for Spurs as well.
Yeah, I don't know enough about him, but I think that whoever it will be, there'll probably be they will be an understudy for Son. I think Son is now the man going through the middle, but they do have to sacrifice himself for the team. And not many strikers really like to do that, do they?
No, they do not. And they do tend to throw their toys out of the pram if they're benched as well. So yeah, again, it's a difficult. I mean, it's a difficult one for any team that wants to improve a squad. It's either you go big, and you go with a marquee signing, or you go down the loan route and maybe try and bring in someone who's a bit experienced who can do a job, doesn't mind sitting on a bench for half the time, and then coming on and having that impact, bit of like a Solskjaer or something like that. That kind of player that's still very good, can have a real good quality effect when they come on. But yeah, it's difficult. It is a difficult one.
It is a difficult one. What are your fixtures in the run up to the Spurs game?
Oh dear, let's have a look, eh? Do you know what? It's one of them ones where, like, albeit we've had a few good results, and we've picked up a few points, I still dread every game that comes up. I really do, because
this international break's been a nightmare, and I wonder if it won't, the break of momentum for Spurs won't be very good either.
Well, I mean, we got two London derbies before we play you. Home to Arsenal,
really? Yeah,
and then home to Brentford. So both of them games are not easy. Actually, do you know what? There's one striker we didn't mention, and I think he would fit beautifully. Yeah, and obviously we're getting closer to the end of his ban now, which will be in January when he'll be available. So there'll definitely be a clamour.
You go Arsenal, Brentford, we go Fulham and Palace, and then we go into Chelsea, Spurs. So that's three London derbies.
Yeah, I mean, great for the team in terms of fatigue, because no travel, which is always a bonus. But obviously, London derbies just mean more. They mean more, so there's more on them. Which
we're going to the third London derby in a row, which is the bigger one of the three, and the players will probably be knackered by the time they get there.
Yeah, potentially. And then before we play you, we've got to play Blackburn in the EFL Cup as well. So we've got that thrown on the table. Whether or not that fixture gets moved or not before that, I don't know. But then you would think, and bearing in mind we have got players dripping back from injury, you would think that 5 days recovery should be enough. But then coming off, I might take it back
what I said before about having to win the league by being knocked out of the cup. Maybe it's enough just to give us a free week to beat Chelsea. Maybe I'll take that.
But this is what I was saying though. So I know a trophy's a trophy, but just having that break, get players back, get them on a treatment table if they've got their minor knocks and stuff like that. It just works. It does. Obviously, the last time that obviously we didn't have a proper European season was the 2010 I think it was whatever it was, season like that. We finished the 10th like the year before. We had no European football, and then we went on and won the league. That's obviously clearly that's not happening with us. But
Wasn't that the same in 17?
I think so. I think we had a couple of like weird transition seasons where we finished outside the top four and then bounced back with obviously. And I think if I remember rightly, not only did we bounce back, get back in the top four, obviously by winning the league, I do believe that the following seasons is the ones that we won the Champions League as well. Which well, apart from the most recent one, beating Man City, because I don't think we were league champions the year before that. I could be wrong though. I'd have to double check. That might have been the 17-18 season. So maybe it was. I'll double check that. But yeah, I'm in a position where I dread the next fixtures. I'm not looking forward to that game against you. I really ain't. I do think you're going to turn us over in a big way, but it'll mean more for Poch. And it'll certainly be a game that he's going to, I think the mentality will be that we don't lose this one. So not necessarily that we're going to come there and throw it all at you and try and get a win. It could be, going into almost like a 5 at the back and sort of parking the bus and going, we walk away from here with a point. Because we just don't lose this game. This is not a fixture that we lose. So I don't know. Has the dog gone missing?
She's just come in the room.
So if anyone was wondering who that voice was, that's Paul's missus. Of course, this is live. So yeah. But yeah, we'll see where we are. We're going to see we'll see where we are coming up to the fixture. So hopefully I'm going to try and make sure I'm here that weekend. So then we could maybe potentially do this on again, like Sunday morning, Sunday evening for you, the day before the fixture. And then we'll have a real like, we'll know where our squads are at a bit more, obviously. And then we'll know where we are more, obviously, points wise, because we'll have a few fixtures under our belt.
Yeah, we'll do a preview and do a review. Let's go into it. Dive into it.
We'll do that. Yeah. I think we're there or thereabouts, mate. Covered we've covered your manager winning his POTM, manager of the month rather, for his second month in a row. You're sitting pretty top of the league. All things are rosy, and we'll see how long it carries on for.
We will, hopefully, until November the 6th or whatever.
November the 6th, which is obviously one of us is going to get an early birthday present. So it's both our birthdays in November, and so one of us is getting an early birthday present. Yeah. We should have had a bet on it. Whoever loses has to buy each other like a fucking Chelsea top or something, or Spurs top. But I'm not that confident.
We've still got time. We've got a preview. Let's see how bullish we do.
Listen, if we win the next 3 games or something like that, or or 2 out of 3 or whatever, and we're maybe sitting just outside the top 6, perhaps I'll feel a little bit more buoyant and confident on it. But we'll see. We'll see.
That's how we feel.
Well, cheers for joining me, mate, on the pod. It's always good to have a catch up over our teams. Yeah, and we, like I say, we'll be back just before for another round of Spurs and Chelsea, just before our fixture on the 6th of November. So look out for that episode. We're looking at Sunday the 5th for another episode and a chat with Paul to preview the Spurs Chelsea game. And yeah, so thank you for joining me on the season 4, episode 8 of Talk Football Podcast. Don't forget you can get in contact with the show, all the usual ways. There'll be a link wherever you catch this. There'll be the link tree where you can hit up on all the socials if you fancy being a guest on the show. If you're a grassroots football club, then get in contact with the show, because I want to feature some grassroots clubs, because I am going up north in a couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a special on Mikolova. And then I'm going to Derby versus Northampton as well. So look out for that. So they're all upcoming. Hopefully this could be a double-headed Sunday. So I'm waiting on a message from my mate Andy. So potentially we could have a bit of a Man United catch-up later, and that'd be interesting because it hasn't really gone well for them. So yeah, that's that episode. And thank you once again, Paul, for joining me
on this. Mate, as I said, whenever and always, and I look forward to our in-depth preview in a few weeks.
We'll see. Right, so everyone on YouTube, thank you for watching if you've watched, and we shall catch you on the next episode, and potentially that episode could be in a few hours' time, so we'll see. All right, so thank you everyone for joining the Talk Football podcast. We'll catch you again very soon.